You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, Pure Chiro Notes, Dr. Alok Trivedi, the Black Diamond Club, MoveWell University, Element Mattresses, MedZone, Vita Chiropractic, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, the Universal Traction System, and Vantage Point Marketing. Let's hustle. All right, guys. Jim Chester, Brian Stenzler. I'm here with the afternoon edition of the Chiro Hustle live stream. And just before we jump into this, Doc, I'm going to introduce our sponsor today, and that's Element Mattress, Bruce Brown. If you guys are a chiropractor and you want to answer those questions that you always get about where do I get my better night's rest, reach out to Bruce Brown and he will set you guys up as a vendor for Element Mattress. And thank you, Bruce, for supporting the Chiro Hustle podcast. Dr. Stenzler, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you. Thanks for having me here, Jim.
And you're coming in from San Diego, right?
That's right.
Cool. Is it always sunny out there?
It's pretty much always sunny. They say the May grays and June glooms, but coming from New York, I'll take it any day of the week. Cold day here is 63 degrees, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, and I'm in the Grand Valley of the Grand Junction area of the western slope of Colorado, which I like to say no one lives here. And it's true. There's like 60,000 people that live in this city, so it's very, very low population, but plenty of opportunities out here. And you did come from New York. What part of New York?
I was born in Manhattan, grew up in Long Island, and lived there for the first 33 years of my life, with the exception of college and chiropractic college, and then moved out here in 2006.
You went down to Life, right?
I did. I went to Life in Georgia. Yep,
okay.
Graduated in 98, so I was there from 94 to 98, and loved Atlanta too. That was a great place to be. But went back to New York to practice for about 8 years, and said that it's time to start living my dream and move out west.
And coming from New York, it's like this. Let's just GSD, get shit done.
That's right. That's what they called me when I became president of the CCA, was the GSD president. Kind of funny that you said that.
Yeah. Well, it's true. That's why, they always say if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
That's
and
right.
If they don't do it themselves, they have the network to get it done. That's
right. That's exactly right, Jim. You got it.
So let's talk a little bit about you as a tour. 20 years experience. Starting out, you said 8 years in New York, and now you're out in California. Let's talk about the whole 20 years a little bit.
Yeah, so, I was very fortunate to go to a great school, to go to Life University. Really got the philosophy, got to learn about the TIC, got to hear the greatest speakers. It's kind of interesting that we're doing this talk today because today is the anniversary of the transition of my mentor, Pasquale Sarasoli. And interestingly, you interviewed me, I guess it was last year or 2 years ago, on the Connected movie, and I talked about Pasquale Sarasoli. So of all days that we end up doing the interview, March 1st, he made his transition March 1st in 2010. So this is to you, Pat. We miss you and love you. He's been such an incredible influence in my life. I've been very blessed to have some great friends, great support in chiropractic from the very beginning. And like I said, Life University really prepared me to help make me into the chiropractor I am today.
Yeah, and there's so many torchbearers out there now, and that's one of the reasons I'm doing so many interviews with the students, is because now I know that I'm aligning myself with the future leaders of this profession, and then we're going to be able to GSD, get shit done, because now we all have a unified front. We're all speaking the same language, and we're all going in a similar direction. Instead of, where are we going? We all know where we're going, and we're going to take chiropractic mainstream. And like I like to say to everybody, we're going to get chiropractic living outside the four walls of chiropractic. Isn't that pretty cool?
That's what we have to do. There's no way around it. There's no way around it. We are mainstream. We're just not where we need to be. People are using us. They're just not talking about it enough. It's not out there enough.
Yeah, so we need to get more. One of the guys in our first film, chiropractic documentary, is John DeMartini. And as I saw him speak like 4 years ago, he said one thing that really smacked me upside the head is he said, we need more media leverage.
Yep, that's exactly right. And we just got to be smart about it. And I appreciate what you're doing with Chiro Hustle, being a great voice for our profession. You're out there, you're literally hustling, you're making sure that it's out there. Not only are these great videos for people to watch either live or recorded later, but you're creating a library of information where people can study this years and years later, and it's all recorded. It's all part of our history in chiropractic. So, Jim, right now you're creating history. So I thank you for that.
Well, that's one of the big things is, we don't play small, but, people think just because that you can do something like this, that you shouldn't prepare, that you should just go do it. But I think so much of this, you've probably seen from our system. We prepare you. We send you out like a questionnaire. We get the bio from you. We get the basically a press kit. We get everything from you, so when we do go live, I know who you are, where you came from, and we can then just launch. But I think so many times people say that old saying is you don't have to get it right, but you got to get it going.
Right.
And for me, I didn't get it right the first couple times. And then as I learned how to systematize this, I got better. Just like anything that we do over time, you should get better with repetition and practice. And then you should be able to build a system, just like any chiropractor that comes out of school. They don't know what the heck they're doing.
That's it.
I mean, without good mentorship and good leadership, like our next question for you is, it's hard to get the momentum going and get in the right direction. So why is leadership so integral for what you're doing now?
Well, I mean, the profession needs to go somewhere. Every profession has leadership in some capacity. You couldn't imagine having a sports team without having, your general manager, your coach, and then of course your quarterback, if it's football and stuff. Somebody's got to be carrying the ball. Somebody's got to be throwing the ball. You got to know what the plays are. And quite frankly, without good leadership, you just flounder. You have nowhere to go. And for me, I never really thought I was going to go into leadership in the profession. That was never my intention. When I graduated from Life in '98, I moved back to New York, and I figured I was just going to be a practicing chiropractor. And in New York, there are two state associations. There's the New York Chiropractic Council, which is more the vitalistic side, and then there's the New York State Chiropractic Association, which is more the mechanistic side. Both have great members, great people in both, but the institutions are founded on very different premises. And so, of course, I was a member of the council, the more vitalistic one. And there were talks about the two organizations merging, which in many ways, it would be a fantastic thing. But the problem was the core values of the two associations were so opposing to each other that it just would have been a destructive force. It would not have been good. So that's when I decided, I'm like, I can't let this happen unless it's on certain terms. And that's when I got involved in leadership in the New York Chiropractic Council. I just took over a district there in Nassau County, basically running that district for a couple of years. And then I moved my way up into the executive board and was leaning towards president until I moved out to California. But it just came from, there weren't enough loud voices, but there were some friends of mine who had been in practice for longer, who I knew through like Dynamic Essentials, a lot of the seminars that I used to go to, they were much more vitalistic, saying, we've got to do something. And I was in practice maybe for 4 months, and it's like, that was not what I wanted to do. I'm not a politician, which is what we hear all the time, why people don't even want to join organizations, let alone get in leadership. But they don't realize that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. We've all heard that expression before, but the truth of the matter is, if we didn't speak up, there would have been that merger most likely, and the vitalistic side probably would have just gone away because the other group was bigger and they were just more organized at the time. So it's unfortunate that here, 20 years later, they still are two separate organizations, but until they could come to terms with certain very important aspects and philosophical constructs, they're probably better off not being one organization. It would be great if they were able to be, and they have to continue to work towards that.
So what's stopping it?
I'd really like to have an answer, but the truth of the matter is it's somewhere between ego, greed, and just not willing to give in. Like there are certain places where there can be compromise and certain places you can't compromise. And one of the things that I did when I was on the board for the New York Chiropractic Council was, and I did this in California also at the CCA, was helped create core values. Said, okay, this is what is important to the New York Chiropractic Council. Any business, organization, supplier, or anybody that we're going to engage with has to be in alignment with these core values. Let's create these core values. And once we do that, we present that to NISCA and see if they can agree on it. So that was the biggest sticking point, that there were certain things in vitalism, subluxation correction that they couldn't agree with. There was stuff about insurance reimbursement, scope of practice, and things just get so muddy. So it's really hard to pinpoint any one thing. But I truly believe if they really wanted to come together, they could. But I think that there are just people in high positions in both sides that won't do it. But maybe just having two organizations is better, because if they're truly going to be diametrically opposed, and one wants to be vitalistic and talk about subluxation and not have scope of practice outside of, correction of subluxations or extremities and what have you, and another side saying, I'm not saying this is NISCA, but another side of a profession wants to bring in drugs to the profession as an extreme, there's no way those two could ever come together. And so it's, where are you willing to give and take? And they haven't come to those terms.
Politically, why is it so important for chiropractors to have a stance and be active?
Oh, when it comes to, first off, just acknowledgement of what chiropractic can do. There are legislators out there that think that, not legislators, there are doctors, medical associations that tell legislators that chiropractors shouldn't be adjusting children, that they shouldn't be adjusting people if they don't have any symptoms. Even the ACA recently came out with a whole thing about X-ray and about how, all these parameters about how X-ray is not necessary and not prudent in the chiropractic profession. And I'm not a big X-ray guy, but don't take away X-ray from our doctors if that's what they do. That's part of their determination of how they detect and correct subluxation. So there's got to be somebody out there telling the politicians, because that's how laws are made. And you see this happen in different states where, for those that are in the insurance world, which 95% of my practice is cash, but I'm still, on the board for an organization where it's an umbrella organization. A lot of people take insurance. Well, people should be able to get paid the same thing for a chiropractic adjustment if another healthcare provider is doing the same thing. And Lori Grassi from the Washington State Chiropractic Association just recently sent out this awesome video. You need to see this, all about the Senate hearing and how, the other doctors, the other professions, the insurance companies are professing, yes, well, osteopaths may get paid more for doing the same service, which to me, it's not the same service because manipulation and adjustment aren't the same, but I'm not going to go there. But for all intents and purposes, billing wise, it's the same service. And the osteopath doctors are getting paid more because they have more experience, more education, whatever it is. I mean, that lack of parity is ridiculous. So it's one of those things where if you're not a member of your state association, then the state association doesn't have enough money to go to their Senate, their legislators, and everybody else to tell them what is right and to set the record straight.
So really what you're saying is everybody in every state should be supportive for the political stance of their organization so that they have more lobby power and they have the ability to make decisions and keep chiropractic pure.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. And, the problem is, we have so much fighting within our association. So you've got two main national associations that are politically, you've got the ACA and the ICA, right? And then you have other groups like the IFCO. They don't do as much politically, but they're out there and they're building membership. And the ACA and the ICA are constantly fighting with each other. One has a bill and some people like what they're doing and other people don't. So you got people fighting against it. It's just like Democrats and Republicans. It's really no different there. Like nothing happens in Congress. But you know what? You need to pick one of those organizations. Which one do you align with the most? And go ahead and support it. And you get your state associations. Some states have more than one association. Pick one, join it. If you don't like it, then get involved and change it. Because to be honest with you, when I moved to California almost 11 years ago or 12 years ago, I didn't like what the CCA was about. And we could talk about that in more detail if you like. And I almost didn't join. But then I decided, instead of complain about it, I decided to be about it. And so it's about making those changes. And that's why we formed One Chiropractic, which I know you've heard about that. And that organization is not an association for members. It's for supporters and partners. And it's not to compete with the ACA, the ICA, or any of the state associations, but it's there to help them all be better so that we can help the ICA with a particular thing. We can help the ACA with a particular thing. We can help the Washington State Chiropractic Association with something, that we're going to be that voice in chiropractic that when we do things with the support of the majority, because people don't want to be a member of the ACA or the ICA for whatever reason. So at least join the One Chiropractic movement in what we're doing so that we can help the ICA on the issues that are important, the ACA and all the other state associations.
So let's drill down a little bit from your humble beginnings after, 4 months of being in practice in New York and getting political, and then transitioning 8 years to now 12 years in California. Let's drill down a little bit on what that transition did for you and what it's done for your career, and how you see you didn't like the CCA either. So let's talk a little bit about how, since you've joined on to that team, you've gotten more leadership involved with the California Chiropractic Association, and what's happened since your involvement.
Yeah, sure. So, I was pretty much going to be the next president in New York, the New York Chiropractic Council. And I remember the day I told them that I'm moving to California, and they were just like stunned. But it was just something that I had to do. I have, two very successful practices, wellness centers in New York, in both in Long Island, and always wanted to see what I could do out in California. Wanted to expand it, open up more locations around the country. I'm like, well, if I could do it on the East Coast, let's see what I could do on the West Coast. So did that for business purposes, and giving up the relationship that I had and everything that I built for the council, the New York Chiropractic Council. That was probably the hardest part of the move, besides, of course, leaving family and friends and my practice members that are incredible. So move out to California. The CCA is the one organization in California. There is another one. There's the ICAC, which is basically ICA of California, but they're not really doing much of anything. In fact, they actually do more of like work comp seminars and everything. The reason they had started was to have a more vitalistic approach in California, but they just never really gained ground. So I wasn't going to join the ICAC at that time. In fact, I don't even think I knew about it at the time, but everyone's like, you have to join the CCA. And I was always one of those people that said, well, yeah, you have to be a member of your state association. But I'm like, look at the seminars, look at the conventions that they're having. There is nothing here for me to enjoy. They're not doing anything politically that I care about. I was reading the stuff that they were doing at legislative conference, and I'm like, really? And most of my friends that had more subluxation correction practices, vitalistic practices, they weren't members of the CCA. Few of them were, because they're like, you have to support it. And so I'm like, all right. I resisted for about a month or two, and I'm like, no, I have to be a member. And so I joined reluctantly, but I knew, again, like I said, I have to go there and make some changes. So got involved with leadership in San Diego. And after a very short period of time, worked up my ranks to being the president of the San Diego County District. I guess it's kind of like one of those things when you're a black belt in martial arts and you go to a different style, you're going to get to black belt quicker than if you started from scratch. And I knew my way around the political world and stuff, knew who the puppet masters were and everything and what to do. So really helped out the San Diego County District, kind of helped revive it, and we had some great leadership. We have some great things. Some of the best chiropractors in the country are in the state of California, and most of them are in San Diego. I mean, Southern California is just like this hotspot of vitalistic, awesome, powerhouse chiropractors. And so, I don't even want to start naming names because I'll leave out some names. But I guess since we're talking about CCA, you've got Matt Hubbard, who started CORE and everything. And that was a great way to get the vitalistic people together. And now, following me also in San Diego is Danny Gambino. He'll be the next president starting in June. So, I mean, and there are just so many in between. And so we decided that after we revamped the San Diego County District, got it exciting, got people excited about it again, it got to the point of the state level. And it's like, okay, how can we break into this good old boys club of the mechanistic side? Because the CCA called themselves an umbrella organization, but they were anything but that. And you could just tell by their political fighting and by their seminars and everything else, it wasn't an umbrella organization. So we were able to kind of work together and get on very high level board positions. Matt Hubbard and I got on the executive board right from the get-go. We went right from district leadership to the executive board and kind of bypassed the middle level of director, which was great because a couple of years later, Matt was president for a year, and then I was president for 2 years. And now the organization is an umbrella organization. I have a lot of my vitalistic friends that's still like, well, it's not a straight organization. It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to be an umbrella organization so we can have one voice. We know, we have an acceptance of tolerance, a statement of tolerance and acceptance of, hey, practice how you want to practice. These are our core values, which again, I helped bring that to California. So we established core values and included words like subluxation, vitalism, non-drug. And so we put in the important things of what we needed to do. And you know what? Our seminars have stuff for personal injury, for work comp, for rehab, pediatric, cash practice. It's got everything. So now the vitalistic chiropractor, the mechanistic chiropractor will always have something at their seminars. When we go to our politicians, we'll be talking about, yeah, okay, so you want more visits for work comp and get rid of a 12-visit cap. That's important for people who do work comp insurance. but it also helps protect against the marginalization of chiropractic because we don't need to be marginalized. But at the same time, we're also fighting for athletic school physicals for the chiropractors that want to take care of high school students and not have to force them to go to medical doctors to get the physical, where they're going to just get more shots and everything. So there's a lot of stuff that we're doing now politically that affects the mechanistic and the vitalistic chiropractor. And I'm sorry, that just wasn't the case 10 years ago.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle Live. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Barbara Eaton's 56-day chiropractic boot camp, Pure Chiro Notes, Dr. Alok Trivedi, the Black Diamond Club, MoveWell University, Element Mattresses, MedZone, Vita Chiropractic, Legacy Wealth Management, Posture Screen, the Universal Traction System, and Vantage Point Marketing. Let's hustle.
Yeah, a lot of stuff you're saying really is a truism for me. I had a chance to talk with Janice Hughes last year at Mile High, which I'm representing Mile High today out with my t-shirt. But I had a chance to talk with her, and she was in our original film, Chiropractic, the documentary. I interviewed her yesterday, and she was just like such a blessing for me because we got to talking, and we started talking about my career a little bit. And I was like, you know what, Janice? The way I see it is I'm non-denominational. As long as you're not trying to put drugs and surgery into this profession, I am in support of all chiropractors because I think that there's a reason that all of you went to the whole 7 years of schooling to be able to take care of whatever community you started. You're like Nassau County, San Diego. I don't know what county is in San Diego County, but wherever you transition from, wherever you land, if you go to, Palmer, if you go to Life West, if you go to Sherman, if you go to Life, wherever you might have landed as a student, LACC, whatever it is, all of you have gone to school to practice chiropractic with a license. And I think that just as long as we're representing, whether my voice or your voice, Leslie Hewitt's voice, Janice Hughes' voice, whoever it might be, as long as we're representing chiropractic with a solid foundational voice that says we need to keep innate intelligence into the profession, we need to keep the vernacular of subluxation, we need to keep these old premises of actually chiropractic philosophy into this profession. Otherwise, somebody else is going to own the adjustment. And Janice, yesterday, she said, what I do is I sell everything and I give the adjustment away. And that's so beautiful to me because I call chiropractic the beautiful profession. And I think that once we realize that chiropractic is the beautiful profession, that with anything, we're going to have confusion in any marketplace. But when we do have good leadership and they do make sure that there are core values and make sure that people are, following a certain major premise of keeping the people that are attacking, that are inside attacking, is making sure that we have a good force field saying these are the foundational results of history. Let's not change what we're founded on. And you guys can, like you said, I'm going to make sure that if you want to practice under these regards and do works comp, if you want to do insurance or whatever it is you want to do, you have to be non-denominational when it comes to taking care of the profession the right way. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. You have where your deal breakers are. And kind of analogy I like to use is, growing up in New York, I remember when they started having the Mets play the Yankees and stuff. It used to be that it was just in the World Series, but when they changed everything, the Subway Series, right? So I would see so many fights, between Met fans and Yankee fans in the freaking stadium, whether it's Shea Stadium or Yankee Stadium. And I'm like, the guys around me, I'm like, hey guys, how do you feel about the Boston Red Sox? And they all hate the Red Sox. It's like chiropractors have so much more in common than we have differences. So, you hear about this in religion, you hear about it in politics, and it's no different in chiropractic. If we celebrate our similarities and understand what our differences are, then I would say that there's a people in spectrum of 1 to 10, right? So let's just say you've got the ones here, let's just call them the most vitalistic. Anything adjusting below Atlas is manipulation, right? And then you've got the 10s where anyone who is adjusting somebody's spine or touching someone's spine and then on excruciating pain is a witch, basically, right? So you've got the 1s and the 10s. We're never going to make them happy. Umbrella organizations are never going to make them happy. But the majority of the profession lies in the 2s to 9s. We all know that we want to help people live a better life naturally. These are the things that we want to do. People became a chiropractor. Whether you're a musculoskeletal chiropractor or a pediatric chiropractor, the idea is to help keep people out of harm's way, keep them away from drugs, and help them live a higher quality of life, hopefully through better expression of innate intelligence and a fully functioning nervous system. That's it. Use different words. When people want to say subluxation is a divisive term, it's like, come on, go back to our roots, folks. If we're not addressing the nervous system, why are you a chiropractor? Then you're manipulating. And you should have just gone to school to be an osteopath or an athletic trainer or a physical therapist where that's allowed in their scope. But you want to take those things aside if you could just accept the premise that we want to help people naturally through innate expression and through the nervous system function. That's the majority of our profession. They may use different terms, but that's where we're at.
Well, it goes back to one of my first mentors, Matthew Walker, who got me into the chiropractic profession 8 years ago. He told me, Jim, if you just get out of your own way, you could change the world. And I think that rings true for the profession. If the profession would just get out of its own way, it could change the world. And I think that there's so much beauty in the chiropractic profession, but like we've discussed, there's a lot of polarity when it comes to talking chiropractic politics. And just as long as you know that what you're doing is going to have an impact on the future of the profession, that's why I think, I can't speak for you, but I think that's why you stand in the position that you do. Because you know that if we don't take some type of a leadership and have some type of stability within the message, then who knows what's going to happen.
Right. That's right. Because if it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. And that person may not have the same views that you have. And that's just what I see happen all too often is people just saying that they're not political. And then they just bitch and moan. They just complain about the results.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you're not going to have input, at the very least, we always tell people, look, we can use your time, talent, or treasure, or all three. We need some of that. So some people I don't have the time. Fine. Give us some talent. Give us some treasure. Give us something that you can offer. For some people, some of my greatest friends in chiropractic, they have absolutely no time. They're way too busy. They're serving a ton of people, but they're contributing money. They're giving money to a political action committee. They're giving money through membership. So that's their contribution. I have people that they're barely making ends meet. They don't have any money to contribute, but they're putting in their time, or they're putting in some other effort and their expertise in some way, shape, or form. So it's so important that people give something in some capacity for their state associations, a national association, something. They got to do something. And to take on a leadership role, in the California Chiropractic Association, you start out in a committee. It could be a local committee in one of your districts. It could be a big committee in the entire state level. And that's how you work your way up. For some people, it's a couple hours a week of work. Some people, it's a couple hours a month of work. And then for some people who go in higher leadership, it's a couple hours a day. But everyone could put in a little bit different effort and be able to get that type of results.
And I think this is a good segue to talk about One Chiropractic. And I think that that's a good, transition point. What is One Chiropractic, and why did you guys decide that that's a good idea?
Yeah, so, one of the big things is our profession is kind of stuck. In certain things we're doing better, in other ways we're not. And so there was this need, some of the greatest leaders in our profession. Janice Hughes is actually part of One Chiropractic. Guy Reekman, Tom Clapp, Stu Hoffman, Darren Hoig is our executive director. He was the ED of the Ohio State Chiropractic Association, and so many other incredible leaders in our profession. Jerry Klum, even part of One Chiropractic, just said, you know what? It's time that we start taking the bull by the horns and not unite the profession, but create a louder voice in the profession, one more unified voice. And so we don't want to compete with the state or the national associations. We want to enhance what they're doing. It's one of the reasons why being a partner of One Chiropractic is only $33 a month. It's just contribute something. You don't even have to contribute. Just get on our email list, something. But there's so many things that we're doing, to increase the awareness of chiropractic through One Grateful Patient. If your folks are not familiar with One Grateful Patient, please check it out. This is going to be a clearinghouse of testimonials of chiropractic that we want to put together and have millions of stories so that when people type in anything, no one's going to type in nerve system interference or subluxation, but if they type in ear infections, wouldn't it be great if chiropractic was one of the first things that popped up? Not that we're here to treat the ear infections, but wouldn't people like to know that that's a good natural solution, a way of approaching the nervous system and helping somebody harmoniously heal, naturally? So the idea that's just one of our projects is One Grateful Patient. So any of the listeners, please check that out. Absolutely free to just get there, post some stories. And we just don't have anything like that out there right now. Another thing about the One Chiropractic is helping level the playing field with chiropractic, with parity and stuff like that. For those that are doing insurance, they want to make sure that they do get paid the same thing that other healthcare providers doing a similar service are getting paid for. Increasing the awareness of chiropractic, and helping the state associations just function on a higher level. I'm also on the board for COXA, the Congress of Chiropractic State Associations. I'm a district director for that association. And I see states that can't even afford to send their leaders to our conferences, to our conventions. Like, how bad is that? I understand that there are a lot of states that don't have that money. Why? What can they do better? So the expertise of people in our group can help the state associations function better. And then there are state associations that have battles, where there are states that want to bring drugs into the profession. One Chiropractic will be there and help support the efforts of organizations like the ICA to go there and fight it. The Washington State Chiropractic Association, what they're going through, that would have been a good opportunity for One Chiropractic to get involved with. So as we start building more of a name and more of a war chest, if you will, we'll be able to have much more influence. But the biggest thing is it's not one or the other. I've been a member of the ICA for 24 years. I'm not dropping my membership anytime soon. I'm a member of the California Chiropractic State Association. I'm not joining that association, the California Chiropractic Association. I'm not dropping that anytime soon. But I'm also a part of One Chiropractic because it's a little bit different of an avenue and different strategies, and there's no bureaucracy. We don't have a board. No board of directors, board of governors, or anything like that. It's just a bunch of people that get together, mastermind, and get things done. We execute, and we become a GSD group. We are working on getting shit done for the profession.
And, I just want to say I'm a megaphone for the profession. And if I can help with One Chiropractic, I actually have a vision of making a database of condition-specific testimonials where when somebody wants to have, some type of an indexing on Google for any type of, I know symptoms sell, and that's what the general public knows. I know chiropractic, the vernacular is, hey, we don't treat symptoms type thing. But, the general public right now, when they're looking for something as a solution for their health concerns, if we had the largest database of patient testimonials saying, hey, this helped with this, and they're pinned to a specific place on a map, now somebody knows where they can go and get that condition, sorted out and get checked and adjusted if necessary. And I think that if I can be of a help or any type of assistance to the One Chiropractic group by maybe some of my vision for how we can get chiropractic living outside the four walls of chiropractic, I would love to, give my 2 cents, if you will, to that organization. And I will become a member for the 33. And I think that that's a good place to start for me, saying, hey, I'm going to ante up my $33 a month. And I love that it's 33 because it's 33 principles. And I know that there's some universal intelligence that came up with that one.
Yeah, that was not a coincidence.
So
yeah.
I know you do some work with the U.S. Open too. I think we can close out on talking about why you think it was cool for that to happen. Are you an avid golfer?
I'm actually a pretty sucky golfer, though I am right near Torrey Pines golf course and everything. You know what? I kind of fell into that. When I was at Life University, one of the things that I always thought I was going to want to do was be the chiropractor for the New York Giants. I got my New York Giants glass here, even in California. But I thought I'd want to be a sports chiropractor. Went ahead and did my master's in sports health science over there. But then I learned really quickly that athletes kind of suck to work with. They're a pain in the ass. And it's so much more fun working with babies and pregnant women and child athletes and stuff. So I never went that route. And when the U.S. Open was in San Diego, I think it was in 2008, the next year was going to be in New York. And so Jeff Poplarski, who does an amazing job running the wellness team for the Open, was looking for a chiropractor who was licensed in California and New York. And bam, there I was. I had licenses in both. So I was able to help out there and be on the team in New York, and then basically done it pretty much every year since. I missed a couple of years because we recently had a baby a couple of years ago, so I wanted to spend more time at home. But yeah, thanks. But it's fun because it's that one time a year that I'm adjusting the athlete. So I'm out there in the golf, and I've gotten more into golf just being around it. because it's amazing. There was there were some really high profile golfers that we've had an opportunity to adjust. But what was really fun was like one of the years, it was actually the one in New York. It was a guy, he was a young guy, I think 20, 21 years old. And it was his first time that he made the US Open. And he came into our area, never been adjusted in his life. He was dealing with some shoulder stuff and everything else, never been adjusted. So I'm like, all right, let's take a look at what's going on. I saw his neck, he was so subluxated, barely even did anything to his shoulder, right? I kind of just appeased him by looking at his shoulder because that's what they think we're going to do. I adjusted his neck, adjusted his atlas of all things. And he was like, oh, I can move my freaking arm again and stuff. Goes out there, has the best day of his life, makes like this 50-foot putt, and ends the first day he finished leading. He was on the leaderboard. He didn't end up winning or placing, but that first day he ended up leading. But the next day he came in to see me, and he brought that golf ball in. That was that really long putt that put him in the lead, that birdie putt or whatever it was. And it's experiences like that are really cool. Like, a lot of professional athletes have access to chiropractic all the time. And so, the big names like the Tiger Woods and the Phil Mickelson, those guys, they get adjusted and everything. But it's these young guys, those names that you never hear, that they get turned on to chiropractic in sometimes in its most purest form. Because I'm not there taping people up. I'm not stretching them. I'm not massaging them. I'm not stimming them. They have physical therapists there. They have hyperbaric chambers there doing all that stuff. I'm there to adjust them, to move the bone. I always say I move the bone and God does the healing. And so that's my take on it. Now, there are a lot of chiropractors part of the U.S. Open team that are much more musculoskeletal oriented, and they're doing more things, and that's great. God bless them. I'll send some of the golfers to them if that's the work that they want or they need, because I don't want to be working on, ankles and taping ankles and stuff. So fine, let them do that. Better a chiropractor doing it or a physical therapist than a medical doctor who's going to shoot them up with something, So I do enjoy doing it. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy doing that every year. And I think that the whole thing is getting out to the different athletes, but doing chiropractic, not doing athletic training stuff on them. That's the key. When you can actually be a chiropractor in a sporting event and actually doing adjusting of the spine and not doing only taping and whatever the orthopedist allows you to do, that's where the power is. And that's where you get to see the magic happen, because we know that everybody functions better when the nervous system is communicating with the body. It's that simple.
Well, it's like doing a domestic mission trip for pro athletes.
Exactly. The people that can afford it of all of them, right? But you know what? They become voices for us because they're out there telling us. Then they bring in their caddies and then their families. We would adjust their families also. I adjusted a lot of the pro golfers that did really well. They brought in their dads, their moms, their brothers. And that's really cool because they get into those executive areas and stuff. So we're turning on a lot of people for the first time, and we always educate them before they get their first adjustment. It's not like, oh, this hurts, go face down. I actually spend time talking to them about what is a subluxation, and then I follow them up. Again, it's a way of getting a lot of golfers' numbers too, because I'm always transferring them to other chiropractors all over the country. I'm constantly sending them to somebody local, and it's just one of those things where we've got to do it one way or another. So like you said, it's a domestic mission trip. I've done Panama, Costa Rica. Now I do the U.S. Open every year.
and you become a screener. You
Right.
You screen them and schedule them in for other offices.
That's right. I'm waiting for my commissions.
Well, Dr. Brian, thank you so much for sharing your vision and passion. Will you put into the comments the One Chiropractic link if people do want to start becoming a member, supporting some organization that's maybe not their state association or something like the ICA or the IFCO, but something that is, what you said, no board of directors?
Right. No board of directors, no bureaucracy. Obviously there's a legal board of directors for the three people that have to make a corporation, but we don't function as a board of directors. There's no voting. It's all talking everything out and just doing what's best for the profession and everybody else. It's simple, very mobile, very agile.
Great. Well, I'm going to once again thank you, Element Mattresses, for sponsoring this episode of Chiro Hustle Livestream. And I just want to thank you for making some time today. I know you're a busy guy doing so much stuff for the chiropractic profession. So thank you for being on the show with me today as well.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for all you do, buddy.
Thank you. And if you guys are interested in joining up with any of the organizations that Dr. Brian talked about, send a comment into the chat feed there. And if you guys are watching this on replay and you have questions for either myself or Dr. Brian, put those into the comment section. And like I always say, we will become more social on social and answer anything that you guys have. So, hey, Tim Schaub, thanks for joining us late. But if you guys aren't at Chiro Sushi, get out to Chiro Sushi too. And that's my plug for you, Dr. Tim. And Dr. Brian, have a blessed rest of your day, man.
You too, my friend. Take it easy.
Okay, see you.
Thank you for listening to Chiro Hustle Live. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.